Hello, and you're very welcome back to the Soccer Punter Premier League podcast. This is your host, John T8, and we are looking at game week 4 in the Premier League. And this podcast is going to be looking at the Sunday games, of which there are 3, starting off with Crystal Palace versus Wolves at Selhurst Park. So jumping right into the stat sheet for Crystal Palace, you can see it's been a bit of a mixed start. Good win versus Sheffield United. A loss against Arsenal, which they would feel a little aggrieved not to have taken something from, given that they played against 10 men for a good portion of that. And then a decent 1-1 draw on the road at Brentford last time out. This just shows the games that Roy Hodgson took charge of when he came back into the managerial hot seat last season. And as you can see there, the majority of the wins that he picked up were against either relegated teams or teams that were in and about the relegation zone. You could actually argue that the run-in that he oversaw was actually pretty nice. It was a bit of a gift for him, and while he did very well coming in and succeeding Patrick Vieira, you have to look at the opponents there, and maybe there's some question marks after all. Lost the XG battle in 2 of their games, winning one of them against Sheffield United. That one not too surprising. And jumping in here, we can see the shots have been pretty high for Crystal Palace. That's something that surprised me this season. I kind of thought with the likes of Michael Olise not being available right now through injury, as well as Wilfried Zaha moving on, I thought that their creativity would suffer, but it seems to be doing okay. Corner numbers pretty high, 10, 9 and 14. Throw numbers pretty inconsistent, and then not many cards picked up by Roy Hodgson's men. Actually, that's one of the best disciplinary records in the Premier League thus far. Looking at Wolves now, got their first win last week against Everton. Everton probably a little unlucky to walk away with nothing from that one. They were excellent on the opening day against Man United. Really unfortunate not to take something out of that game. And when you look at the underlying data here, even in their game against Brighton when they were beaten 4-1, the XG would suggest that the game was a lot closer than that. Wolves away from home has been a problem. This is last season's 19 away games, and as you can see there, they only won 2 of them. One against Everton, who were very lucky to survive, and one against Southampton, who were ultimately relegated. So away from home, Wolves definitely not a very good side. Although so far, in trips away to Old Trafford and Goodison Park, they've actually put on a pretty good show, given a pretty good account of themselves. Shots data fairly high. That's going to suffer. The continued interest in Mateus Nunes is not helping with that. Add into that their strikers just simply aren't good enough for this level. Certainly not hitting the goals per 90 that you would expect from a Premier League team. They're going to struggle regardless of how many shots that they get. Fouls pretty high. And that actually correlates to the yellow cards, which you can see there on the far right. 3, 3 and 4 so far. Corner numbers fairly high. 15 in the first game, 8 in the second, and then 7 in the third. Interestingly, they didn't get any corners whatsoever against Everton. Throw numbers have been pretty high. So just taking the following notes as we try and put something together here. Given Wolves' away record over the past season and even in the first couple of games here, I can't see Crystal Palace losing this one. So Crystal Palace, double chance. I think Crystal Palace will get plenty of shots away in this one as well. Like I said, the creativity and the productivity up front doesn't seem to have suffered too much with the departure of Wilfried Zaha and the unavailability of Michael Olise. Over 7.5 match corners, I think that's a fair one to ask for, and then both teams to be carded. I know Palace haven't necessarily picked up that many cards, but given the new directives that are out there, and given the tactics that Wolves will likely employ, I think this could be a bit of a chippy game. Wolves, we can get a decent price on over 8.5 shots as a leg of this parlay if we put one together. There's the over 7.5 match corners, the both teams to be carded, and I do think Wolves will continue to pick up multiple bookings in most of the games this season. They're going to have to play a certain way. Couldn't find a single that I really wanted to get my teeth into in this one, so I've ended up just going with the same game parlay. This is priced at plus 300 using 6 legs. The statistics that we've looked at already, I would advise half a unit on this, and another fun one to cheer along. The other 9 o'clock kickoff is a good one. It's Liverpool versus Aston Villa at Anfield. Great picture. Liverpool, decent start, you have to say. I thought against Chelsea they looked a little bit less complete than I thought they might. Chelsea actually looked the more settled team in that one, which surprised me. Against Bournemouth, pretty professional performance, got the job done. And then against Newcastle last weekend, without taking too much away from Liverpool, Newcastle definitely hit self-destruct on that one, didn't really manage the game properly. But fair play to Liverpool, and fair play to that man Darwin Núñez for coming off the bench and bagging himself a couple of goals. I think he could be a very big player from them this season. As has been typical of his career, the second season for Darwin Núñez is the one where he really impresses. This is Liverpool's home record at Anfield last season, and it rather speaks for itself. Just the one loss, a very odd 2-1 loss to an eventually relegated Leeds team, but other than that you can see lots of goals scored, fair few clean sheets in there. They're a strong outfit at home. And that's just looking at their XG so far against Chelsea, probably 1-1 the correct score there. Against Bournemouth, far superior. Against Newcastle, well, what can you say? They were just the more clinical side on the day. Shots numbers kind of all over the place. The red card against Newcastle certainly didn't help that. Foul numbers, 10 and above, definitely something we can look at. Corner numbers, 8, 12, 14, so a bit of a trend there, I suppose. Yellows and reds, I mean, you can see right there, 6 yellows, 2 reds. Something we have to factor into anything we do here is the fact that Virgil van Dijk will be unavailable for this game through suspension. Aston Villa, what a start they've had. Unai Emery continues to do wonderful things there. A really disappointing opening day defeat at Newcastle, but they bounced back from that with a comprehensive 4-0 victory over Everton, and then they beat Burnley 3-1, and obviously Everton-Burnley, without giving them too much disrespect, they are the kind of teams that you would expect Villa to win against. Has to be noted though that Unai Emery, since he took over at Aston Villa, only Man City have picked up more points in the Premier League. And we can see that from Villa's record last year under Unai Emery. Great amount of wins there. Some good ones as well. Man Utd, Brighton, Spurs right away when you look at that. In this fixture last year, you can see second from the bottom there, they did manage to get a 1-1 draw out of it. So plenty to factor in here based on the history and the fact that we've got a good amount of data at our disposal, with Jurgen Klopp obviously being in charge for as long as he has been at Liverpool, and then Unai Emery having a good chunk of last season as well. Villa very dominant in the XG4 there in their last 2 games. I don't know what we do with that Newcastle game. Probably just write it off at this point until we see them against better opponents like this one. Shots data has been pretty consistent for Villa. Corners data, 11, 13 and 10 in the opening games. Throw-ins kind of all over the place, and then 7 yellow cards over their first 3 games. This is a game where I see both teams scoring. Liverpool obviously very good at home, but there's been a lot of transition at that club, particularly in centre midfield. You have to factor in as well that Trent and Andy Robertson are not looking as sharp as they did, certainly in Liverpool's title winning seasons or challenging seasons. I think they're vulnerable here. Over 4.5 team corners, certainly doable from a Liverpool standpoint. It's something that they've hit in this fixture in the past. It's something that they've hit fairly consistently at Anfield, and both teams to be carded again. I do think that is such a runner in most games. The price isn't fantastic as a single, but as part of a same game parlay, it's certainly worth adding in there to juice it up. Again, the both teams to score. I think Villa can trouble this Liverpool side. Over 8.5 shots is something I'm interested in there for them. I think Villa get at least 3 team corners as well. They've hit that and more in every game so far. And that has led me to 2 selections. This first one I would advise 1 unit on, and I'm going to give Aston Villa a plus 3/4 of a goal head start in this one. That basically means that if Villa avoid defeat, we get a full payout, and even if they lose by just the 1 goal, we will get half of our money back. I'm also going to throw in this same game parlay. This is just 5 legs, and it comes out to a very nice plus 320 price. I would advise half a unit on this. Both teams to score, over 4 corners for Liverpool, both teams to receive a card, over 8.5 shots for Aston Villa, and over 2 corners for Aston Villa. I like that one. I think that's got a good chance. And you save the best for last. Final game of the weekend, arguably the biggest game of the weekend. It's Arsenal versus Man United at the Emirates. This is going to be an entertaining one, I think. Arsenal obviously starting out with 2 wins. They'll be a little bit aggrieved not to have picked up 3 wins when you look at that game in more detail against Fulham. They absolutely gifted them away into that game. This is Arsenal's home record last season at Emirates. I mean, it's fantastic. What can you say? Only the 2 losses, 1 to Man City, 1 to Brighton. Fair enough. And the other occasions where they dropped points, Newcastle, Brentford, Southampton, most disappointing of those. But, to only drop points 5 occasions all season long, they really get the business done. And just look at that scored column, 4-2-2, 3-3, 5-3. I mean, the games at the Emirates, just seeing lots and lots of goals. So if we look here at Arsenal, shots data has been pretty high, 14 and above in all 3 games, multiple offsides, corners for extremely consistent, 8, 8 and 8. Overall corners numbers pretty good, 11, 9 and 11. 3 yellow cards, 1 red, discipline. Not bad, not good, but not bad. Manchester United. You have to say they've rolled their luck so far. To have 6 points, you would have to argue that they've kind of burgled those 6 points. Against Wolves, they were lucky to get out of there with the win. It was probably more, that was probably more of a draw, that one. They were lucky to get out of there. And then against Spurs, they were definitely second best. First half, I thought they were very good. Second half, they were just nowhere to be seen, and I thought Spurs managed the game incredibly well. And against Forest, I don't know what they were doing in that opening 5-10 minutes. They were very lucky to get out of there with that victory. Ten Hag has work to do. Now this is an interesting one. I pulled up United's away games at their fellow top 10 finishers last season. It doesn't make for pretty reading. Just the 1 win, 1 draw. That's 4 points out of a possible 27 for Ten Hag on the road to the Premier League's top half last season. And as you can see there, not 1 clean sheet amongst them, multiple goals conceded, and the way things have started this season for them, it's hard to see them getting a win at their rivals here. So Man United shots data have been pretty high, just not really finding the net quite as frequently as you would expect them to. At least 1 offside in every game so far. Corner numbers have been high, 15, 11 and 14. Throw-ins 14 and above each time, and multiple bookings in each game. And I think that's something that's going to continue. Obviously with certain absences that are going on, probably Rafael Varane at central defence being one of the biggest ones right now. United could find this to be a difficult game, and I think they're going to have to employ certain tactics in order to get something out of it. So this has led me to the following notes. I think Arsenal are going to at least get a point out of this one. I just can't see Man United winning this. So Arsenal double chance. I do think both teams score. I think there's going to be a good number of goals in this. I think it'll be highly entertaining. If Arsenal continue to employ Thomas Partey as a somewhat inverted right back, I think they're going to struggle here. I'm not too sure why Arteta is insisting on doing this. Perhaps it's because of the speculation surrounding Gabriel at centre back. I would like to think that now that he's not moved on, that maybe we see Arteta revert to type and we see a more traditional lineup, because I think Rice and Partey in that centre midfield would be a great partnership. I think Arsenal get plenty of shots away on this one. Their wingers in particular are going to cause Man United's back line all sorts of problem. Just a little point on that. Any of you guys that like to back cards in this one, if Man United start with the likes of Dalot and Wan-Bissaka in the fullback positions, I think the likes of Martinelli and Saka will give them a really tough game. So they're definitely ones to look out for on any fouls or cards markets there. I think there's going to be a few offsides in this one. There certainly has been in the past, and each team have racked up a few already this season. Over 4.5 team corners for Arsenal, and I think both teams will be carded. Man United side of things, I think they'll get over 3 corners. I think they'll probably pick up multiple bookings in this one again. Other than that, I really don't see too much positive to get involved with there for Man United, so it's just more the same selections that we touched upon for Arsenal. This is my main play on this one. I think both teams score. I think there'll be over 2.5 goals, and I think both teams will get a card at least. That plays out at plus 105, and I'm going to go with a unit on that. I'm also going to have half a unit on this plus 300 same game parlay. This is 8 legs, and again, it's another one that's got a massive chance of landing, in my opinion. I'm expecting goals. I'm expecting a really open game. Highly entertaining, a great one to close out the weekend before we enter the international break. And that is all for this episode of Soccer Punter Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening. If you have enjoyed the content, please hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. It really helps me get it out to a wider audience. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all of the soccer that is on show, Premier League and beyond. Have a great weekend. Take care now. Bye-bye.